Hello. Thank you for tuning in to our Alumni Career Tips. My name's Roberta Watson, and I'm from Jefferson's Alumni Office. Today, we are joined by Laura Bickert Ciarlello, who serves as one of the Associate Directors in the Mary Ann Abel Career Services Center, located on our East Falls campus. In less than 15 minutes, Laura will share her tips and tricks for writing effective cover letters. So with that, Laura, go ahead and take it away.
Hello. Today I'm going to share some key tips and strategies with you about how to build an effective cover letter and why you still need to write them and how to use them to best accentuate your positives and experiences. So first, the big question, do I still need to write a cover letter? Do employers still want these? Do they even read them? The short answer is maybe. The longer answer is that depending on the position, the employer, some of them might require cover letters. Others might ask these to be an optional part of your application, and others aren't going to ask for them at all. So typically, what I say is if you have the option to submit something extra that can provide additional information to the employer, you want to take advantage of that. Cover letters are often able to be a bit more personal in nature versus your resume, which can a lot of times be just the facts. It doesn't get to describe as much of the learning, the development that you have maybe had from experiences on your resume. A cover letter can serve that purpose. At later stages in your career, you'll also be likely writing something more of a letter of inquiry, which we'll discuss later in the presentation, versus writing maybe a traditional cover letter as part of the application, because you're going to be outreaching to employers or using more of an informal cover letter in the body of emails or LinkedIn messages that you're sending to employers and possible new contacts. You want to use your cover letter to share things, like I mentioned earlier, that you've learned, that you've developed from past positions. You can also give a bit more substance to examples that fit the needs of the position you're applying to and relate more of your background. There are two main purposes of a cover letter. These are to share if you're interested in the position and the company and why you're best qualified. Even if those things seem obvious to you, you really do need to connect the dots for the employer because it's not always as obvious to them. You don't want to have them making assumptions or trying to figure out what you mean or why you're interested. You want to make sure that you have control of that story for them. This is typically the first impression you're making. Some employers are going to start by reading the cover letter, then move on to the resume. Some of them will do that in reverse order. Regardless, these documents are built and should be made to support each other. So first, a few key tips before we jump into content and really how you're going to structure a cover letter or a letter of inquiry. Cover letters are truly supposed to be different and specific for each position that you apply to. You can certainly create an outline and showcase key skills that you want to highlight, but you want those skills to be particular to an employer and a role that you're seeking. You don't just want to list all of your skills and all of your experiences for every single employer. You need to really think about what's important for that particular role or for that particular company. And you want to probably talk to people at the company first. You want to do your research. You don't want to just be throwing together you-centered things, but instead be able to provide information and those connected dots for what truly meets the employer's needs. While you're showcasing your abilities, do be careful to be honest, right? So remember, even though you want to share information that's impactful, you also want to be truthful in this. Rather than addressing your letter to whom it may concern, you want to make sure that it's addressed to an individual, likely the person that's hiring for a role, or that you've been maybe referred to by somebody else if you are sort of doing an outreach and trying to do some additional networking. You might have to call if you're applying for a particular role and you don't necessarily know who's the specific hiring manager. You may need to call and talk to someone in HR. They can share that information with you so you can write your cover letter. If you really can't find the information, you can certainly address it to Dear Hiring Team or Dear Hiring Manager. So as I mentioned earlier, there are going to be two types of letters that you're writing at this point. One of them is a letter of inquiry, which becomes much more common as you progress in your career. This is because you're using a lot of times these opportunities to network or to reach out to somebody and do some informational interviewing. Maybe you're asking about a vacancy, or you've been referred, like I mentioned earlier, to a particular role or a company that someone has shared with you that there's an opening, even if there isn't a specific posted opportunity at the moment. A traditional cover letter is for that specific posted position, for a specific job that you have seen and that you're writing to. You're also going to have two different types of formatting you can use. If you're applying to a posted position, you're likely going to be sending a formal business letter, and you'll follow corresponding formatting that we'll show you on the next slide. You may also choose to send a formal letter and attach it to an email versus using the body of your email for a cover letter. If this is the method you're using, you are still going to include some content in your email, but it'll likely be far less and maybe as a follow-up to previous email exchanges or conversations you've had when sending that formal application in. If you send your cover letter as in the body of an email, content is still going to remain the same in terms of the body, but it'll be less formal in the formatting that you use, and you'll just instead use regular email formatting and etiquette when doing so. So this is an example of what typical business letter format would look like. So on the left-hand side, you can see an example, and then on the right, you'll see the specific content that you're going to include there. And that's what you should be familiar with that. I'm sure that that's how cover letters have looked in the past. And if you are doing any formal business communication, that's typically how that's going to look. If you're writing your cover letter a bit more informally and as part of the body of an email, you're still going to include, as I mentioned, that same formatting, but you'll lose the formal business formatting. You'll include the same content. You'll likely want to create a formal signature to include some sort of personal contact information so someone knows how to reach out to you. But just keep in mind that you don't want to be writing your cover letter from a current work email and using that same signature. So now the nitty-gritty, the pieces that you're going to put together for the content of your cover letter. So at the outset of it, you want to clearly state your information, your interest, how you found the posting, whether through a referral, through a site, through LinkedIn, etc. And then you're going to introduce the key themes, the stories that you're going to elaborate on in the letter below. You don't just want to make claims without support. So often we'll see that people will include a bold statement either at the beginning or at the closing of a cover letter about being the best candidate, meeting all the qualifications, but they don't really say how or which they fit best. This makes the cover letter too broad and it doesn't really share any sort of useful information. Second paragraph and the bulk of the cover letter is really going to be focused in on your stories. So this is the part that focuses in on the strongest qualifications that you believe connect your experiences and skills to what the employer is looking for. This could be from information you've gained through informational interviewing already, or it might be from combing through the posting really closely. And here's where you're really going to give weight to the statements that you made at the outset, elaborating on them, and providing context, sharing learning, development that you've gained through your experiences that will be beneficial to you. So in your third paragraph, really, this is where you're talking about what's the next step. This is getting closer to the closing of the letter. You can often say, I'd love to have the opportunity to speak more about my qualifications and how I can best meet your needs. Please reach out to me at your earliest convenience. That's a fairly common sort of phrasing that you might use. But you essentially want to use this as sort of suggesting an action plan. You want to ask about what's the next step here? How can I be proactive in getting to share more information with you? We often hear from people, they want to know, can I be too bold or too forward at this point in the letter? I don't want to assume anything. At this point, this is part of the purpose of the letter, is to find out about the next steps. And so I think as long as your tone isn't arrogant or over assuming about a guaranteed next step, it's perfectly fine to ask these sorts of questions in the letter. And you want to make sure that you're sharing key information about how somebody can get in touch with you. Then lastly, the closing of your letter. This is obviously where you're going to thank the reader and let them know that you're eager to hear back from them. This is often combined with that third paragraph, sort of as a full closing, or people may choose to use only one or two sentences in a fourth paragraph at the end. A few examples to kind of give you a sense of weak and then a little bit stronger cover letters. So this is an example of a poorly written cover letter, mostly because the content is so broad, it just isn't useful. Someone reading this doesn't learn anything about the candidate, and it's truly, unfortunately, a poor use of including a cover letter with your application because it doesn't take advantage of sharing that additional insight with someone. This is a much stronger cover letter. It certainly follows that traditional formatting that you might be using. And it clearly meets the purpose of providing examples and support that's relevant to the role in the organization someone's specifically applying for. You can see each of the breakdown of the paragraphs and how content is included there with examples given that someone can clearly understand why you believe that you're a good fit and why you're interested. So I hope this was a helpful starting place for writing some effective cover letters. If you use the resources on this slide, you'll find additional cover letter samples, our full guide, along with an array of career-related resources, from professional document writing to how to network effectively, to guidance on job searching, and access to our own job board, Handshake. If you've used former job boards facilitated by our office, such as HirePhillyU, Hire Jefferson, CareerLink, any of those job boards by those names, Handshake is truly the most recent iteration of this. You can access our main website or the direct link above and just sign up for an account. All we do is verify that you're an alum, and then you can get started using it for your job search right away.
Thank you so much, Laura, and thank you to each of you for tuning in to this Alumni Career Tips video. I hope you were able to pull some tips and tricks from today's presentation to apply to your next cover letter. If you're looking for additional career resources, I encourage you to join our official alumni LinkedIn group, where we post helpful content along with events on a weekly basis. You can find us on LinkedIn at Thomas Jefferson University Alumni Networking Group. If you'd like to watch additional pre-recorded videos, please visit our YouTube channel and subscribe. We have a library of different options ranging in topics for you to select from. You can find us on YouTube at Thomas Jefferson University Alumni. Finally, at the bottom of the screen, you'll see 3 websites: our alumni website and our 2 career centers located on the East Falls and the Center City campuses. Each website has a variety of different tools, including online guides, virtual platforms, events, videos, and more. As alumni, you have access to all of these resources for life, so I highly encourage you to go check them out. Thank you again for watching, and I hope to see you very soon. Bye-bye.